welcome back everybody to our intermediate and advanced Civil 3D training video series. In the previous video, we looked at 3 and 4 center curves in an intersection, specifically related to a residential road here. On the left side, we created a 3 center curve. On the right side, we created a 4 center curve. I've got that previous video loaded up here because the corridor targeting and mapping, the way that Autodesk had it previously in 2018, 19, 20, 21, and even at 2022 when this video was created, the corridor mapping dialog box looked as we have on the video here. So we would come into our target, we would click the ... button, it would load up our target mapping, and if our pieces were named, we have right sidewalk, left lane, right sidewalk, left lane here. We were able to set up our target mapping. We could set up surfaces right here if we had a daylight style assembly piece in our corridor. And then the outside, the offset targets, the width targets, width or offset targets we would set up in the top half of the dialog box, and the slope or elevation targets we would set up in the bottom half of the dialog box. Now this has been in the program for a number of years, and it's been like this. And to set up a few of the offsets, we would have to go into the dialog box under the targets. And as I just fast forward this, we would come into the width target. It would open up the set width or offset target dialog box that we have seen here. We would select our alignments and add them into the width target. And we would have to do this for 1 or 2 alignments and set them up that way. Same goes for the elevation targets, and I'll just fast forward the video a little bit here. We would click on where it says varies for the elevation targets. We would add our 2 design profiles in this way. Now, I had to open up this previous drawing because I have updated my Civil 3D. I believe it was Civil 3D 2022, the 1.1 update, although I could be wrong on the update. However, they have changed the way corridor target mapping works. So I'm in the exact same drawing here. This is the one we did before with the 3 center curve on the left and the 4 center curve on the right. Now, when I go into corridor properties, however, before I do that, I'm again going to go over to my assemblies, and I can't stress enough about naming your assembly pieces. Now, when you put a lane in, naming them is going to help you immensely here. If you have as many assembly pieces in the drawing as I have here, when we're targeting, when we're mapping, it's going to make it easier if you actually name the pieces. Now, when I click on this assembly piece, I'll take a look in just plain old properties tab here. We can also access it through subassembly properties. We can name it here as well. So ensuring that all your objects are named correctly is going to, like I said, help you immensely here when we're doing the targeting. We know that we want to stretch the right lane, or we want to stretch the left lane, or we want to stretch the curb and gutter, whatever piece we want to stretch. And even when it comes into sidewalk targeting, these assembly pieces in the sidewalk are the smart pieces that we can target and stretch in order to match one sidewalk offset to another. So naming everything, and again, it's just as simple as clicking on the piece, coming in properties, and not clicking description, but clicking right in here, and we can name it whatever we wish. So back to my corridor piece now. So when I select my corridor and I come into corridor properties, this dialog box is still the same. This one hasn't changed. It looks exactly identical. The difference, and I'm going to make sure to grab the 4 center curve here. And I'm going to scooch this out of the way, and I'm going to click the target ... button, which is going to open up the brand new dialog box for our target mapping. Now, it has all the same relative information in it. In fact, it has a little bit more information, and if we make the dialog boxes a little bit bigger, we can see what's happening. So the pieces are named, so left lane or right sidewalk. There's 2 pieces in this curb assembly that we can target, left lane or right sidewalk, and which one do we want to stretch out? Before we do that, the surface command. If we have an assembly with a surface or with a daylight, it will appear under the surface dropdown. And I'm just going to go add a surface target quickly to my curb return right here so we can see what it looks like. I'm just going to throw on a daylight assembly, and then we can see what it looks like in that dialog box. And I'm going to leave everything just default inside of it. It's going to rebuild my corridor because I have it set to rebuild automatic. Not always the best command, however, it does help when you're making a lot of changes. So back into corridor properties, we're going to change the target. Now if I come under surfaces, we see that daylight basin, and if I had named it right side ditch, we would be able to come in here and set a target surface. Now there is a set all button, or there's a specific for the one little piece itself. Now, when we click on these pieces, we notice the dialog box down here updates, and it shows us the surfaces that are in our drawing. So I can specify existing ground, and I can hit OK. And that will load it into my target window under surfaces. And when I click OK again, it's going to rebuild to that existing ground. However, I don't want to do that for this assembly piece. It's mainly to show the brand new dialog box. Now, when we come back in here, there is a automatic or pick a surface off a drawing, so we could go that route if we have 8,000 surfaces in our drawing. Now, to clear this out, just click it again. And then we can hit OK. It's going to remove it and kick us back to this dialog box. So that was the surface related options. We can target a surface. If we go to the offset and elevation now, this is where we can set up our offsets, our width targets, and our elevation targets. And we see also that our daylight basin is also included in this now because we can target a profile. So my left lane, if we take a look at the assembly here, we have the left lane right here. We have our curb and gutter, and then we have our sidewalk piece with the little offset on the end. So my left lane is the one I want to target, and Civil 3D has done the updates. It's picked that information up, and if I click on outside elevation target, left lane is now broken into two categories, and it's all in the same dialog box. Arguably, it's a little bit easier to, instead of clicking 8,000 different things and trying to go find the new information or go through that old dialog box in order to find the new mapping. So I'm going to click on outside elevation target for my left lane, and where it says varies, I can scroll down here, and Civil 3D asks to select a profile and pipe to target. I'm just looking at the profile part. I don't see why you would target a pipe, but unless that's not a Civil 3D utility pipe. So I want to target my Monterey Park design, and I also want to target my 32nd Avenue extension. Now, unfortunately, these don't highlight anymore when you click on them, and every single alignment, like the previous dialog box, is going to be in here. The right side of the dialog box, we can select feature lines, 3D polylines, survey figures to target. I'm not going to target any of these. However, I have stretched objects to a polyline before, or a feature line, 3D polyline. It's probably easier to pick it off the drawing when you're stretching it than it is to try and find it in the list of items here. So I've selected my two profiles, Monterey Park Design and my 32 Avenue Extension left, based on the corridor. I'm going to click on Width Target, and under the Varies command, we want Monterey Park Way and 32nd Avenue Extension left. So the first one is the elevation target, the second one is the width target. Alternatively, we could stretch the sidewalk as well if we wanted to tie a residential sidewalk into, say, an arterial sidewalk. They both have different offsets. That is probably better handled with a polyline or a 3D polyline or a feature line instead of trying to build alignments and profiles for those. So just a quick recap, in the previous video, we created these 3 and 4 center curves based on this old dialog box, which was, this video was recorded a month or two ago. In between when that video was released and this video, Autodesk has pushed an update to change the corridor target mapping to what we have on screen here. So just a quick recap on the new corridor target mapping. Functionally, everything is the same. Arguably, it's probably laid out a little bit better and a little bit easier to access everything you need. And we see here why naming our objects is very, very important, because every alignment in your drawing is going to show up here. Every profile in your drawing is going to show up here, regardless of what profile it's in. So naming your objects, left lane, naming your profiles, naming your alignments, everything is going to help you out immensely here.